May I present to you the $3 fix to your productivity problems? Index cards. Why isn't it Notion or the Good Morning Good Life Planner or something else totally glamorous? Well, there's one obstacle I think index cards help the best, better than any other tool. So in this video, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to share how index cards get you more organized, make you feel smarter, help you keep track of the things you actually care about, and most importantly, give you less anxiety. And I've also got 7 organization ideas you can get started with today with your $3 fix. Index cards. If you're about to ask me, Amy, do you really have index cards on you at all times for your many thoughts? The answer to that question is yes. Yes, I do. I don't know about you, but when I try to put a thought into my phone because it's more convenient, I get real distracted. These are not distracting. Okay, they're as simple gets. So you can do a number of things. Maybe you just grab a binder clip and a whole stack of index cards and have them ready to go in your handbag or wherever you keep your items. That's what we call, my kid carries around so many things now. We talk about how she carries her items. I actually found this adorable box at Staples, which allows me to have like blank cards in the front, and they had some fancy dividers. Like I don't even use like the fanciness of the dividers. I just put notes I've taken in the back so that they're organized for when I'm ready to process them. And this little case from Staples, index card case, is what is with me all the time. If you're someone who struggles with focus, you just can't get organized, this one piece of advice is going to change everything for you. Look at what you want to focus on. It seems very obvious, but you may not be doing that. You might spend a lot of time focusing in your mind, not looking at what you want to focus on. What's really interesting about the mind is it's much more likely to pick up the details of how things fit in together and where ideas might be headed when it scans over information rather than just focusing on something. So if you want your brain to focus on something, then you need to give it something to scan, to start to come to its own conclusion, create its own original thoughts. Because thinking is performed better when we have what we want to think about in front of us. I really grasped this concept so much better when I reread one of my favorite books, which is How to Take Smart Notes by Sanka Arens. What I learned is that we're so much more intimidated by a blank slate. But when we have something to look at in front of us, specifically something that we created ourselves with our own mind, we're much more likely to be able to build on it and really create something that's ours. What we really need is a rough draft. Remember in school where somebody said, oh, this is only the rough draft is due by this date. Sort of like that introductory step that you can take to feel a little bit better about what you needed to work on, the big project, that there would be this mid step, but then still you have to sit down and create the rough draft. Where does a rough draft come from? Ideas, quickly delivered, simply in your own words. We decide we need an exorbitant sum of time in order to get a project done. But if we pile up the little details over time as they come to us and let the ideas populate as our natural, when we sit down to have the rough draft or to build out the project that we want to work on, having something in front of us to be able to scan and focus on gets it moving that much faster. And you then don't need a huge amount of time every time you need to hunker down and do something. If you want to do more with less time, it doesn't mean do more. It means do more by having more. Give yourself more to work with. Have more resources. Have more ideas, have more references, have more life experiences. The more you have of them, the more there is to work with. The vast majority of the time, the problem with productivity lies in perfectionism. If getting the idea out isn't simple, we won't do it. If we feel we already need to have the format decided, or we want the planner to look a certain way, just getting the thought out is going to require too much effort. But the simplicity of an index card really changes that. Your mentality is different when you look at this little piece of paper and the max amount that can go on it and say to yourself, I just got to get this thought out of my head and right here. The name of the game is to use index cards to mobilize getting the thoughts out of your head and into the real world, so that you have a rough draft and you never have to start with a blank slate again for literally anything. This video kicks off a series called Life Organized, where I share the specific tactics that I use on the day-to-day to stay organized, keep track of all the details, and overall be more productive. We're kicking it off with the power of index cards today. And in the coming episodes, you can expect how to use Notion to build a life OS so you can keep track of all the details, how to focus your attention with the tactic of calendar blocking, and sustaining a productive life. In other words, keeping up with it with the power of daily habits. If you're excited about this series, be sure you're a subscriber of this channel. Becoming a subscriber simply means it's much more likely that YouTube will let you know when the new episodes are rolling out. The first idea for your index cards could be fleeting thoughts. You can learn a lot about this in the book, How to Take Smart Notes, but David Allen actually said something great in the book, Getting Things Done. He said, there's no reason to have a thought twice unless you like having that thought. So that's kind of how I think of fleeting thoughts, the things that you're hoping you don't forget or you're hoping you can compartmentalize in some way. It could be absolutely anything. When you think of something you need to do, write it down. Plan Bianca's second birthday party. That's something that I don't want to think about until I'm ready to think about. There it is, fleeting thought. When you have an aha moment in the middle of who knows what's going on, write it down. More note cards, less perfectionism. You're getting into the habit of taking the thoughts that you actually do want to have again in the future, under the right circumstances, in the correct mode, while freeing up the space in your mind now to release them someplace else. Most of the time when we have that second thought, that third thought, we're rethinking something, it's because we think we have to remind ourselves to do something. Feeling more productive comes from immediately handling the thoughts that need to be handled. You're basically giving yourself an opportunity to trick your brain into thinking you took care of something it thought of, even if all you did was process it into the real world and into a note. The second organization idea, I am so in love with this. I found it on YouTube when I was researching, like, has anyone talked about this here before? And I found a channel by Lefie. I don't know if I'm saying that right. They created a video about index cards and using them for vision boarding, which I love it. When you think about the fact that we are emotionally connected to these things because we used to have to do memorization in grade school and use them as flashcards, maybe we should be going through and having memorization exercises of the things that we want in life and the reminder constantly of that image flashing in front of us that we are deserving of it and should continue to work toward it. I don't know. Straight up, like, what would you have printed out and put on your vision board? Write it here if you would like a visual because it makes you feel more connected to it. Print it out and glue it to your cart and keep it in a binder clip so that when you're standing in line at the grocery store and you could look at the tabloids, instead, just flip through your vision board and remind yourself of why you're doing all this. What's on my vision board? Oh, let's see. 1 million YouTube subscribers would be cool. I want my Range Rover, and I'd love to work with Land Rover on a brand integration. Happy, healthy baby number 2, arriving right on time, please and thank you. And so you get the point. Now, when you have these cards in front of you, you really start to think about, yes, these are the things that would make me feel good. These are the things that would make me feel happy. I can choose to feel those things right now. I don't even need to print anything out. My imagination is better when I just look at these words. The third idea is a task list, and this is really popular. There's so many people that go on and on and on about your daily tasks on an index card. And it's because literally this dance card can only be so full. When you sit down to either shut down one day and plan for tomorrow, or you wake up in the morning and that's good enough for you, then create a list of your daily tasks. I like to also, if I go this route, have a highlighter because I learned this from a previous assistant. She used to call it the power of the pink, and she would write all the things she needed to do, and the goal was to highlight it pink by the end of the day. So write your daily tasks on a note card, and that's it. And you know there's only so much you can put on here. The next organization idea is project start brainstorming. This goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. If there's those big thoughts that you're having of stuff you have to do that have many tasks, many sub-projects within them, We do not want to have to carve out 8 to 10 hours of the free time you do not have to have to get that project done. We need to slowly build it up over time. This particular tip is going to be helpful for you when we go into that next video about building out your life OS. It'll give you something to work with if you do this one. So let's actually go back to one of my fleeting thoughts that I had earlier. Plan Bianca's second birthday. Well, that is a project, my friends. So as I'm having ideas about this fleeting thought that I already know I've had and I've processed into my note card stack, I might have another fleeting thought. Check pricing at gymnastics facility. I know they do birthday parties, so that might be one that I want to look into as an option for us to go and have a party. Find a cake. That's a sub project. Where are we going to get a cake for the party? Birthday theme. So now, instead of sitting down and trying to come up with all of these at one time, when they come to me, they go on a card and they go in my little packet or in my binder clip for when I'm ready to sit down and process my cards. And I say, oh, this is about that project, these are all about that project. Now I can start a project place when I'm ready to actually do the bulk of that planning or continue to add ideas to it. You want to know the secret about these index cards? You're not meant to keep them, okay? We're not meant to be swimming in lots of index cards, okay? That's not the goal. You might keep your vision boarding cards. There might be some that make sense for you if you want to build out a commonplace book or something like that. But the concept that we're talking about here is genuinely to just get the ideas out so that you can process these ideas, and you actually will, because you have begun that process by getting them out of your mind and giving them a place to go. So when we move into the idea of having a life OS or a project manager, we have something to start with. If you've got projects that are weighing you down right now, simply start by giving the project name an index card so that you give that permission to your mind to start coming up with ideas and feeling good about those ideas when they arrive. This is that lowering of the anxiety we need to do. You're inviting the information because you now have an outlet for it, rather than the overwhelm of, I have too many ideas and I don't know what to do with them, or I don't have any ideas, I don't know where to start. Okay, the next idea is for book notes. I don't know about you, but I'm a voracious reader. And when I read something that I'm really excited about, I want to reread it again in the future under those right conditions. Anytime I'm sitting down with my book, even if it's a book on Kindle, I also have index cards next to me. It's an absolute given, especially in that moment when you read something in the context of how the author has delivered it to you and you go, wow, I love that. There's a reason you love it, and it isn't so that you can memorize it and write it down verbatim. It's so that you can take what you just interpreted, the aha moment you just had from that information, and turn it into something real. So I'll give you an example in this book, How to Take Smart Notes. There's a section here about being an expert instead of a planner. And I love how he talked about it, but how I specifically took it away is as follows, and something I would want to remember for the future. You don't need the perfect steps to proceed. You need to absorb the information so deeply that you can take measured steps as you engage the idea in the future. Engagement is greater than experience. And I'm just going to name it because it's going to go in my book notes. Be an expert over a planner. And on the back, I'd probably put where I got it from. Aaron's How to Take Smart Notes, so that when I process this later, I put the appropriate credit. I read what I read and I wrote what I thought. And that's how you know that you've actually learned something from the experience. This next idea is for those of you who are always saying, I have so many ideas and I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do with them. You must use index cards for idea capture. Let me tell you a little something about your ideas. They're probably great. You want to know how you'll find out? Write them down. The plethora of amazing, great ideas that you have that you just do not have the bandwidth for, write them down, because I want you to see them. I want you to scan them, to develop focus onto them, and to let your brain see what it came up with, to have a feedback loop of just how great these ideas are. And then we're not going to sarcastically judge your ideas just the way that I sounded. They might be amazing. They might look crazy to begin with. They're going on the card for them to be processed later. You don't need to keep them here. You need to start to see them in the real world so that you can think to yourself, that's dumb, but still just set it aside, or that's a great idea, I'll get to that later. Give it a home. Something I think we'll talk about in the coming videos is the idea of a someday maybe list, which is something that David Allen talked about in How to Get Things Done. And the someday maybe list might be the perfect place for all of your great ideas. And that's exactly where it needs to go. Not in a filing cabinet in the back of your brain so that you can keep going on about all the great ideas that you've ever had and don't know what to do with, but in a place where you can say, I need a great idea and I need it now. Let me go to my someday maybe list and see what harebrained activity has been there. Give yourself of the rough draft of a place to start. But when you have a crazy idea, when you have an awesome idea, when you have a tiny idea, whether it's going to become an immediate project or it's going to be a someday maybe situation, get it out of your head and onto a card, because it is not real just because you thought of it. I have ideas all the time. Usually they have to do with my videos. So I could say video idea, how I read a book, 2024 version. You can tell me if that sounds good. Another idea that I had recently, and I'm just putting ideas so that when I process it later, I know exactly where this is supposed to go. Newsletter for ladies in leadership. That's something I gave thought to recently. Love it. I could run with it right now and be like, what a great idea. Or I could let it simmer. This is really simple. This is like that's it. That's all I have to say for now. That's all I've got. And that is all you need, so that now there's room for more to be attracted to you if that is an idea that you are going to continue to build upon. And the seventh idea, it's very similar to your vision boarding, but I love the idea of putting affirmations on note cards. I am obsessed with finding ways to get affirmations in front of me without having to think about it. I have an app on my phone that makes sure that there's a widget on the home screen serving me affirmations. I have a whole tablet that sits in my kitchen so that affirmations are being served to me just when I'm doing the dishes. I love affirmations. So again, back to that idea of what are we looking at when we just could be scrolling social media, instead could be doing something more productive with our brain. What affirmations do you have written down that you can binder clip and keep with you when you need those moments, those reminders that it's all worth it if you keep your mindset where it needs to be? I love my life. Everyone needs that reminder every once in a while. Allow yourself to give it to yourself in a powerful moment when it hits you and you want to write it down and save it for later when it's really needed. Keep your stack of index cards. We're going to be processing these in the next video when I talk about how to create your life OS with Notion.